Imagine this, it's the early 1800s. The Mediterranean Sea, a bustling highway of commerce and culture for centuries, is also a stage for high-stakes political drama. On one side, you have the burgeoning European powers, like France, hungry for influence and resources. On the other, the Barbary states of North Africa, including the Regency of Algiers, a semi-independent state of the Ottoman Empire, with a formidable reputation for its naval power and corsairs. For centuries, they had navigated a complex relationship of tribute, treaties, and intermittent conflict. But by the 1820s, the winds of change were blowing, and a storm was gathering on the horizon, one that would alter the course of North African history forever. This is the story of how a diplomatic slap with a fly whisk escalated into a full-blown invasion, leading to 132 years of French rule in Algeria. So, how did it all start? Let's rewind to 1827. The relationship between France and the Dey of Algiers, Hussein Dey, was already tense. The root of the problem was, as it often is, money. Decades earlier, during the Napoleonic Wars, two Jewish Algerian merchants had supplied large quantities of grain to the French army. But France, wrestling with its own post-revolutionary financial chaos, never fully paid the bill. The Dey had personally loaned money to these merchants and was now trying to collect the massive debt from France on their behalf. The debt was real, the amount was substantial, and the French were dragging their feet, offering excuses and delays for years. For Hussein Dey, this wasn't just about money, it was a matter of honor and respect for his authority. The situation came to a head on April 29, 1827. During a tense diplomatic meeting, Hussein Dey confronted the French consul, Pierre Duval, about the unpaid debt and other French provocations, including the unauthorized fortification of French trading posts. The consul's arrogant and dismissive response was the final straw. Frustrated and insulted, the Dey lost his temper. He gestured dismissively with his fly whisk, a fan made of peacock feathers, and lightly tapped the consul. Accounts differ on whether it was a deliberate strike or an agitated flick, but the outcome was the same. In the highly ritualized world of 19th-century diplomacy, this was a grave insult to the honor of France. This event, known as the fly whisk incident, was the casus belli, the perfect pretext King Charles X's government was looking for. Now, was a tap from a fan really enough to justify a full-scale invasion? Of course not. The fly whisk incident was a convenient excuse. The real reasons were much deeper. In France, King Charles X was deeply unpopular. His ultra-royalist policies were alienating the public, and he desperately needed a victory to boost his prestige and rally the nation. A glorious foreign conquest seemed like the perfect distraction. He envisioned a quick, decisive military campaign that would restore French honor, create patriotic fervor, and silence his domestic critics. Plus, there were economic motives. French merchants coveted the trade opportunities in North Africa and eliminating the Algerian corsairs, who sometimes preyed on European shipping, would open up the Mediterranean. This was an era of resurgent European colonialism, and Algiers, with its strategic location and perceived wealth, was a prime target. The French government began painting Algiers as a lawless pirate state, a threat to civilization that needed to be tamed, conveniently ignoring their own unpaid debts and diplomatic arrogance. France initially responded with a naval blockade of Algiers. For 3 years, French warships patrolled the coast, hoping to starve the Dey into submission. But the blockade was a costly failure. It was difficult to maintain, largely ineffective against the sprawling Algerian coastline, and did little to harm the Dey's government, which was largely self-sufficient. Instead, the blockade became an embarrassment for France. The French public grew impatient, and the government's prestige, which the blockade was meant to restore, only dwindled further. It became clear that a more direct, aggressive approach was needed. The plan shifted from a simple naval action to a massive military invasion and conquest. An expeditionary force of over 37,000 soldiers, 100 warships, and hundreds of transport ships was assembled, one of the largest amphibious operations of its time. The target was no longer just to teach the Dey a lesson, it was to seize Algiers itself. On June 14, 1830, the massive French fleet appeared off the coast of Sidi Frej, a peninsula west of Algiers. The choice of landing site was strategic, avoiding the formidable defenses of the city of Algiers itself. The landing was swift and met with initial resistance from Ottoman janissaries and local tribal forces. The Algerians, under the command of the Dey's son-in-law, Ibrahim Aga, were courageous, but they were outmatched. The French army possessed superior firepower, discipline, and modern European military tactics. The Algerian forces, a mix of Ottoman soldiers and various tribal militias, lacked a unified command and were equipped with less advanced weaponry. Despite their fierce defense, they were pushed back. The decisive battle took place at Stoli. After intense fighting, the French forces broke the Algerian lines and began their advance toward the capital. The march on Algiers was brutal. The French army advanced, securing the high ground that overlooked the city and its main fortress, the Kasbah. From these heights, they began a relentless artillery bombardment. The main target was the Sultan Khalesi fort, a key defensive position. The fort's walls, which had stood for centuries, crumbled under the cannon fire. Inside the city, panic set in. Hussein Dey, realizing his position was hopeless and wanting to avoid a complete massacre of his people, decided to negotiate. On July 5, 1830, just 3 weeks after the initial French landing, he signed the Articles of Surrender. The terms were harsh. The Dey and his family were exiled, and the city's treasury, filled with gold and silver accumulated over centuries, was plundered by the French. The tricolor flag was raised over the Kasbah, signaling the end of Ottoman rule and the beginning of a new, even more brutal, chapter. The French had promised a limited operation, simply to depose the Dey and end piracy. But the capture of Algiers wasn't the end, it was the beginning. What started as a punitive expedition quickly morphed into a full-blown project of colonization. The French government, seeing the ease of their victory, decided to stay. This was not a simple change of rulers. It was the imposition of a foreign system on an existing society. The initial occupation was chaotic and violent. French soldiers, given free rein, looted homes, desecrated mosques, and committed numerous atrocities. The promises made during the surrender to respect property, religion, and the customs of the people were immediately broken. The French began seizing land, dismantling local institutions, and imposing their own laws and administration. The fall of Algiers sent shockwaves through the region. But the Algerian people did not simply accept their fate. While the Dey was gone, resistance sprang up across the country. In the west, a young and charismatic leader named Emir Abdelkader emerged. He united various tribes and launched a brilliant guerrilla war against the French, holding them at bay for over a decade. In the east, figures like Ahmed Bey of Constantine also led fierce resistance. The French response was a strategy of total war. They employed scorched earth tactics, burning villages, destroying crops, and massacring entire communities to break the will of the resistance. The conquest of Algeria would take decades and cost hundreds of thousands of Algerian lives. The invasion of 1830 wasn't just a battle, it was the first act in a long and tragic play of colonization. Resistance, and a painful struggle for independence that would define the nation of Algeria for the next 132 years. So, the next time you hear about Franco-Algerian relations, remember the fly whisk incident of 1827. It's a powerful reminder of how a seemingly small event, a pretext, can be used to justify immense historical changes, launching an era of conquest and colonization that would reshape nations and leave scars that endure to this day. The story of 1830 isn't just history, it's the foundation of a complex modern reality. Thank you for watching. And if you found this deep dive into history interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. See you in the next video.